Mother's breast milk and heart disease in babies. The first one that should be attempted is dietary intervention. Butter consumption also declined, which is so tragic. And then you're put on something that you might never get off of. A vegetable oil is being used, increased 400%. A lot of avocado oil, even though it's deemed as good, is actually being cut with canola oil and is rancid before it even gets to you. Fun fact. Hello everybody, hi. Welcome back to Wellth Body Radio. I'm your host, Alisha Hamill, nutritional therapy consultant, and I am here to share my wisdom, my lived experience, the knowledge I've accumulated through this lived experience, and how I've gone from disordered eating, unhappy, unfulfilled, to intuitive eating, nutrition coach, extremely happy, very fulfilled. And yeah, none of this podcast is medical advice because I'm obviously not a doctor. I am not a dietitian. I am just somebody, again, that has lived through it, has accumulated some knowledge, and is going to share that with you. Again, if you're going to do anything crazy with your diet, please seek out a professional. That is that. So first of all, last week I talked about my experience being a vegetarian. My kindness kind of caused me to fall victim to the propaganda and the information that was out there at the time, like on Netflix and stuff like that, and just the internet. And I cannot believe how much you guys blew up that podcast. So thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking it. It really shows how much a little bit of engagement goes a long way, especially for small content creators and newbies like myself. So again, thank you guys so much. So this week I just want to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit more. And I want to dive deeper and talk specifically a little bit more about where the movement from animal fats to seed oil, plant fats kind of came from, and specifically on brain health, what you should or should not be eating, in my opinion. Let's start there. So nowadays, there's absolutely no shortage of mental health issues. We all know that. I think everybody knows somebody that suffers with some kind of anxiety, depression. There's all kinds of things like insomnia is a brain health issue. We have ADD, eating disorders, OCD, panic disorders, all of that. So the issue I have is that because there's no shortage of knowing somebody that has a mental health issue, and nowadays I feel like there's no shortage of support either, especially with the Bell Let's Talk. I feel people are really comfortable expressing themselves. There is that one app that lets you talk to people. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. They're always advertising for it. But there is a lot of help out there. But we have not seen a decline in mental health, considering all of the resources we have nowadays. And that right there shows me that we have not gotten to the root cause of the problem. It is excellent and amazing, and I did 3 years of therapy, and I have journaled at times for 4 hours, okay? I just journal. All right, that's my kind of therapy. There is absolutely a time and a place, and I think everybody should go through therapy. You should be able to talk it out. That is very, very needed. The issue, that is not the root cause, okay? We need to figure out and collaborate the two things so that people can actually get really healthy. So let's start with the fact that your brain is made up of mostly of fat. Specifically, 60% of your brain is made up of fat, and that is a lot considering fat itself gets a bad rap. We think that fat, if we eat fat, it makes us fat. So if we want to lose weight or we want to diet, we eliminate fat simply because it makes mathematical sense. Fat has a 9 calories per gram versus protein and carbs who only hold 4 calories per gram. So if we're wanting to lose weight, and in a world of, everybody trying to look and be their best, everybody and their dog has gone on a diet, literally, and cut out fat. right? Fat makes you fat, so let's remove it. Your brain is 60% fat. So how does that affect that? Well, let's kind of go back. Again, we have to figure out the root cause. So let's kind of go back to the beginning of things. And there was a shitstorm of events that kind of, not serendipitously, came together in the 1950s. So in the 1950s, the beloved President Eisenhower, that's how you say it, had a heart attack. There was Dr. Paul White. He was America's most prominent cardiologist. And there was a physician called Ansel Keys. And these two doctors crossed paths. And they both believed at the time that there must be something else that's giving people heart attacks. It must be cholesterol, saturated fat, that's causing this new epidemic of heart disease. Because before in the 1920s, there really wasn't anything, like heart disease was not as well known as it is today. And so these two doctors teamed up and they started, trying to gain more research and more knowledge in terms of, does saturated fat, that's animal fat, cause these heart diseases? Because this president had just had a huge heart attack, so it kind of put the spotlight on America as a whole and going like, this population is going in the wrong direction. Their leaders aren't even going to make it out. He did live, that's great, but that was kind of the narrative that was picking up in America. Now, at the same time, there was another scientist or another doctor named John Yudkin from the UK, and he was pointing the finger at sugar. So back in the 1900s, we had people consuming about 40 pounds of sugar per year, which still sounds like a lot. It gets worse though. And then by the 1920s, it had doubled, and it's estimated that people were consuming about 80 pounds of sugar per year. And by the 1980s, it had escalated to 90 pounds of sugar per year. And currently, around 2000, it was at its peak at 110 pounds per person of sugar consumption. That's a lot. So that was something that was newly introduced, readily available to consumers at an affordable price, that was on the rise. So he was like, hey, that's different. There's a correlation here. Unfortunately, like all good things, politics did get involved, and there was the battle. Was sugar the issue or was saturated fat the issue? And it really came down to which group had the most backing and funding and publicity. And ultimately, John was silenced. The other group, the Ansel Keys group, had just not invited him to things. They were really bullies. They were getting the industry big players to, do research that was supporting that it was animal fat that was causing the issue, not sugar. And they were kind of cherry picking the data to get their message frontline. And like I said, Ansel Keys was not the only person that wanted Yudkin's theory silenced. There is evidence that suggests that the sugar industry saw the opportunity to contribute to the negative perception of saturated fat. So the Sugar Research Foundation supported a review called Dietary Fats, Carbohydrates, and Atherosclerosis Disease. And in that review, they stated that to avoid heart disease, you just simply have to reduce fat intake. Very simple, apparently. It also downplayed the early warning signs of sucrose consumption, and unfortunately, this played a key role in shaping public perception and influencing federal policy. Very important here. During the period from 1910 to 1970, the proportion of traditional animal fat in the diet actually declined. So it went from 83% down to 62%. Butter consumption also declined, which is so tragic. Butter is so good. Butter consumption plummeted from 18 pounds per year down to a measly 4 pounds per person per year. During that same time, the percentage of vegetable oils being used in the forms of like margarine, shortenings, oils, cooking oils, increased 400%. That's a lot. The consumption of sugar and processed foods increased about 60%. We also have like big players like McDonald's, who used to cook in beef fat, like all their fryers switched to vegetable oils. We also have things like Procter & Gamble at the time that, when the war ended, had a surplus of cottonseed oil and were able to hydrogenate it to make what we now know as Crisco. So there were certain things like this that there was companies that just wanted to make money. Money is really the driving factor of everything. It makes the world go round, unfortunately. And when now we have the public being sold a lie and consuming things, and essentially just becoming guinea pigs. Like, we don't really know the consequences, well, we do now, for another 10, 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, so I know I'm gonna get some heat for these topics because honestly, some people are so married to their diets that they can't see beyond that. The irony is, I was there too. It's taken me a full decade to learn trial and error the points I make in my own lifestyle. So I want to provide a different perspective for those struggling with their current ways that intuitively know that something is just not right. And I don't want it to take a full decade for you to get to the place that I am now. Let's just shorten that a little bit, okay? If that's you, I hope this podcast will help you, guide you, and in return, all I ask is you just give it a big thumbs up and comment down below. And if you think that you know somebody that might benefit from this, please show them this podcast, send it their way. And if you don't like it at all, honestly, just stop engaging with me because it's screwing up your algorithm. You're just gonna see more of me, so it sucks to be you. Okay, thanks guys. Let's get back to the show. Alrighty. So that is kind of our back story about how vegetable oils and seed oils came to be full front focused, how we had a low fat diet come into the world. We had the elimination of a lot of our farming as people moved into metropolitan areas, more grocery shopping. It was a luxury to go grocery shopping. It was very frowned upon to live off the farm, eat your own stuff. I don't get it because I think that's super cool now, but that's where we are. That's how we got to be where we are today. Fun, hey? So now the issue with the blanket statement that fat is bad or that fat makes you fat is that it doesn't. It doesn't, and it also doesn't distinguish between the different kinds of fat. That is really important because yes, fat can be bad if it's an incorrect form of fat for humans to be consuming. But fat can be very nurturing, very healing if it's appropriate, the appropriate kind that we're used to having in our traditional diets. So the distinction needs to be made between processed, denatured. Is it rancid oil? A lot of avocado oil, even though it's deemed as good, is actually being cut with canola oil and is rancid before it even gets to you. Fun fact. Oxidized. A lot of oils are oxidized if they're sold in clear bottles. You need to be buying dark glass bottles. And we need to make the distinction between those kind of oils and fats and the kind that are life-giving, vitalizing. Women, especially your hormones, need fat. They're so important. Okay, so those are gonna be our essential fatty acids. So essential fatty acids are just that. They're absolutely essential for well-being, to live, to thrive. And they're absolutely essential for your brain health. Let's dive into what they are, what they're made up of, how you should get some in your diet, how much to eat, and all that jazz. The key here is to understand that fats have an essential fatty acid ratio. So you have your omega-6s and your omega-3s. The naturally occurring ratio that we see in the wild is going to be a 4-to-1. So 4 omega-6s to 1 essential fatty acid omega-3. That was terrible. And that is the right balance for your body, for your brain. Apparently I need a little bit more. Omega-3s are really important for building their, especially your cell membranes. They allow them to regenerate, and they also protect from cellular damage. Omega-6s, on the other hand, are really good for like inflammatory processes. When you get like hurt and your body's repairing, your body's repairing, even me just sitting here, the light from these screens is causing my cells to break down, and then I'm going to need them to be repaired. Like just like little things like that you wouldn't even think about, that your body's constantly repairing up. There's microinflammation, all that. But it is the ratio that you accumulate them in. If you accumulate a butt ton of omega-6s in your diet, you're going to accumulate dietary inflammation. Hot ass Dr. Huberman states this. Ingesting significant levels of omega-3 fatty acid is going to support a healthy mood and even act as an antidepressant. More than a dozen studies have shown that ingesting at least 1,000 milligrams per day of EPA form of essential amino acids is an effective as prescription antidepressants in relieving depression. That's all you need to say. That is so good. You don't need to go on a synthetic form of the drug where you can just take a high quality fish oil and they'll do the same thing. That is so cool. And that is one of the things that your doctor's not going to tell you. That's one of the things that the internet's not really going to tell you, because they want to sell you something. Remember, the world goes around because of money. They want to sell you something that makes them money, profitable. But in reality, if you just eat more fish in your diet, you might be able to alleviate your depression, your anxiety, your eating disorder, your insomnia, because our brains are screaming, are crying out. Our depression, our anxiety, any biofeedback is a sign from the body that it needs something else, it needs something more. So we need to give that to it. So that's where this statement is really powerful, because it allows you to take back into your own hands what you can do about it. You're not deficient in antidepressants. You're deficient in potentially omega-3s, because your diet is really high in omega-6s and you live a very stressed life and you haven't gotten any sleep because of it, and it kind of accumulates. Let's put a stop there and interject a healing, holistic form that again allows you to take back your own power, your own control, and then that allow you to sleep better and be less stressed, and then all of a sudden everything's tickety fine. And I do understand that it's not like that experience for everybody. There are some people that, they have major depressive disorders, and there is something that needs to be done by a doctor. I'm not disregarding that. But I am saying that really intense protocol should not be the first one that's attempted. The first one that should be attempted is dietary intervention, using supplements like this, herbs, fish oils, getting out into the sun, high quality drinking water. These are things that are overlooked, and then you're put on something that you might never get off of. You might spend your entire life on it, and it might actually do more harm than good. Okay? That's all I'm saying. There are a lot. I'm one of those people. If I would have went to the doctor and been like, hi, I'm depressed, I laid on my floor today and I wondered, why am I alive? They probably would have given me antidepressants. Or if I would have said, I have social anxiety, whenever I see somebody from high school, I freak the fuck out, probably would have given me a pill for that. But I didn't need that. What I needed was to stop binging on crappy foods. What I needed was a good support system. What I needed was more sunshine. And when I slowly started doing that all myself, all the issues that I had mentally have now since gone away. And I'm very, very grateful for that. But that is why I am telling you that there are methods to be exhausted before going the way of pharmaceutical. That's it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a doctor. Just saying my own experience, and that's my own opinion. Oh, okay, this is so cool. It is really important to know why fat is so good for us. And a lot of people argue that like saturated fat is so bad for you. Here are the studies, blah, 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 blah. Mother's breast milk. It is literally contains 50% of its calories from fat, mostly saturated fat. It is high proportion in cholesterol. So why would Mother Nature create breast milk to be literally, apparently, toxic for a baby? And why aren't we seeing a really high increase in heart disease in babies if cholesterol is the root cause of it? If saturated fat causes heart disease, why don't babies get heart disease? It's just something to think about. Like, we just kind of have to look back to our roots, right? And that for me doesn't make sense. That as an adult, I can't have butter because it might give me heart disease. But as a baby, I was gulping down saturated fats like it was going out of style, and I've lived. So this goes back to our brains being mostly made of fat. Mother Nature has created an ecosystem of solutions for us, for optimal health, for growth, right out of the gate, right till the end, right? We have everything we need at our fingertips. It does not need to be man-made in a lab. Okay, so if you've made it this far and you don't hate me by now, like some of the trolls do, let's talk about where we can add fat into our diets and to increase our overall brain health. What are some actionable solutions that you can start doing to see improvement in your own life? So the first one we're gonna do is increase fat in your diet, and specifically in terms of fatty fish. So that's where you're gonna see the omega-3s. Now there's a nuisance here, where farmed fish actually has less omega-3s in it and actually more omega-6s, because the omega-6 that is found in grains and corn and soybeans is being fed to farmed animals. Okay, that's an issue. When harvested, wildly caught fish, is eating their natural diet, they have more omega-3s in it. So really important to note there, if you do have the option to get sustainably caught fish, that's the route to go. It can be more expensive. So overall, choosing the farm fish is a better option than McDonald's. It's all a spectrum, it's all a scale. You start here and you work your way here. That's totally fine. So don't beat yourself up over it. Go with some fatty fish. So that's gonna be things like mackerel, salmon, sardines, everyone's favorite, and herring. So the 4 ounces of that is going to give you equivalent to, I believe it's 1,000 milligrams of the EPA, the one that Dr. Huberman was talking about. So go with that, or you could supplement with a high quality fish oil. Really important to keep the fish oil in your fridge. That is going to preserve it longer and prevent it from going rancid to like the elements like sun, heat, all that jazz. So again, keep it in the fridge to preserve the quality. Sean Stevenson says that you should add in like hemp seeds into your diet. They have a great 3-to-1 ratio when it comes to omega-6s to omega-1s, or what the heck, omega-3s. So sprinkling a little bit of that in your shakes or on your salad in its raw form. You don't want to heat it because that denatures it. But yeah, adding in some hemp seeds is a great idea. Throwing out all of your margarine. That is literally my favorite thing to do. Just go to someone's house and then take the margarine and then slam dunk it in the garbage. You don't need it. Buy yourself some butter. So good, such a treat. Tastes amazing. So good. So buy some butter. And there are quite a few women, I've heard their stories say how they have had hormonal struggles their entire lives. They've had really heavy periods or infertility. PCOS symptoms were, off the charts. And then as soon as they started incorporating raw dairy, their hormones balanced. Now, I'm not saying that there's any evidence to back that, but if you can find some raw dairy just to test that theory out, I don't think you honestly have anything to lose. I would totally jump on that. And lastly, you want to avoid cooking with any seed oils like I talked about in the last podcast. That's going to be your corn, canola, cottonseed, safflower, sunflower, grapeseed, rice bran, and soybean. the hateful eight. We want to avoid these ones, and we want to cook with instead use like tallow or lard. Anytime you make a roast, like a pork tenderloin or, bacon in the morning, pork chops, you do like a beef roast, a brisket, all the drippings, put it into a container or a bowl, put it in the fridge to chill, let it chill out, and then scrape off that layer of fat and put that into like a mason jar. That's what I do. And then I just use that for cooking. This is also going to save you money. Very good. You've already bought the animal product with the fat on it, paid for that, and then people literally dump it down the drain. Or they shouldn't. People do. Put it in the garbage. That's such a waste. You already paid for it, and then you're buying margin on top of that? What a waste. But just use the fat that you already bought, okay? Okay. All right, so some products. So that sounds really easy. Like, okay, Alisha, I'll just avoid these oils. If you don't buy the oil itself, then you've avoided it. But they're very sneaky. They sneak into a lot of things. So let's talk about the products that these hateful eight oils are commonly found in. That's going to be your mayonnaise, your store-bought baked goods, chips, store-bought hummuses, seems healthy oils, vegetable oils. Frozen foods usually have it to increase like flavor, especially like healthy meals, because they want it to taste good, so they add in these extra oils and like MSGs and sodiums and stuff. Salad dressings are a really big culprit. We have protein bars. Again, another healthy item that is laced with these toxic ingredients. There's cookies, crackers, low quality ice creams, because they're using it as a filler, and then they use like xanthan gum to like bulk it up and then make it like hold shape. And then any fast food and restaurant items, they pretty much put it into everything. Max Lugavere just shared a post where even Chipotle puts rice bran oil into their rice to give it flavor and seasoning, they said. So even the rice there is tainted with toxic ingredients. So what are some things that are actually good for us? So we talked about like the fat that comes off a brisket. That's great. We know butter. The other things are going to be like heavy cream, ghee, egg yolks, cheese, meat, organ meats, avocados, whole olives, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, sardines, fatty fish, fish eggs, oysters, raw, soaked, and prepared nuts. Those are all things that have really good, healthy fats in them that you do not want to be avoiding. You want to head on and grab a whole bunch of those and fill up your pantry and your fridge and really incorporate incorporate one of those items into your meal at every single meal. And you could do things like making your own homemade like salad dressings, and making your own homemade mayo is so easy. Like it's off the charts easy. Just like literally Pinterest it and it'll come up. You can do adding sardines into your own homemade Caesar salad dressing. I have yet to try that. I'm a little scared, but I did buy some sardines, so maybe I will do that soon for you guys. Sunny side up eggs, and just keeping them sunny side up helps preserve some of the nutrients in them there. You could do raw milk like I talked about, any raw dairy. You could do mincing up the organ meats into like other products so they can like hide it and mask it. Coconut oil in place of like any shortening in recipes is always a great idea. And yeah, those are just some of the simple ways to start increasing the good quality fats in your diet and decreasing the poor quality fats, which in turn, I promise you, will change your brain health, will help you feel better, look better, see the world clearer. Honestly, when I was eating like a vegetarian, healthy diet, like fake burgers, fake bologna meat, eating cupcakes, eating fries like that were, vegan cheeses, tofu, there was such a fog over my head, over my eyes. I did not see my body clearly. I was very irrational. I was very emotional. I was not a happy camper. I'm a very happy camper now, and I eat a lot of avocados, all the meats, all their fats. I eat sunny side up eggs almost every day. I love butter. I could eat butter and salt, like sprinkle extra salt on top, like by the spoon, which I actually have at a restaurant before because they gave like butter out like for the bread, and they gave us an extra butter by accident, and I just ate with the spoon. And my roommate was so pissed at me because he's like, that is so gross. But I loved it. It was so good. Good for my brain health. Why would I throw that away? I can't waste that. Come on. All right, folks, that's going to be all for today. As always, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening, learning, and supporting this podcast and this channel. I really, really, really do appreciate it very, very much, honestly. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to reach out to me if you felt some type of way about this podcast, good or bad, and let's have a conversation, an actual conversation, not like a dehumanizing, attack me conversation. Okay? Don't forget to show up in the world a little bit more curious, a little bit more intentional, and a lot more loving. Bye! I really hope you can't hear the neighbor yelling at her children and the kids crying. Hot ass Dr. Huberman. No, that's all wrong. Oopsie. No. Awkward. I have to pee so bad.